Hey everybody, it's Phil Kerner, the Tool and Die Guy, and I'm going to do something I've never done on YouTube before. And what I'm going to do today is unlock the vault. And what I'm going to let you do is see one of my hour-long instructional videos, and it's a really good one today on grinding. And what I'm told is there's not a lot of grinding videos out on the web anyways, and this is the last part of a series where we took a small grinding vise and that I had roughed out 30 years ago as an apprentice, and took this old rusty thing and turned it into a beautiful little grinding vise, flat, parallel, and square within a tenth. So I'll leave this up for about a week for you guys to enjoy it, and this is typical of the other videos you don't see. I think I've got about 50 or 60 on YouTube that are out there for the public to enjoy, and there's over another 150 at toolanddieguy.com. So enjoy this video. You're going to learn a little bit about grinding, although this is the last part of the course. We've got the hours of grinding instruction, but you're going to learn a little bit about fitting things and how the little edges and a thou here and a thou there can really wreck a project, and how not to panic and figure it out. So enjoy the video, and I hope to see you in the tool room soon. Okay everybody, it's Phil Kerner, the Tool and Die Guy at Dieter's Tool and Manufacturing, and today we're going to hopefully finish up our grinding project. And the reason I wanted to start in this different room today, it was at work today. I ground this solid jaw in, and I side wheeled it. Now I really did want to set this down on a magnet and grind it with the bottom of a wheel, but as you can see, I'm pretty limited by what size wheel diameter I get in there. Well, that sets up a whole nother problem. So I was able to side wheel this today and get it perfect. And I'm going to side wheel this for you tonight just to show the process I used. This side doesn't really mean anything, but I want you to see how I got this one right. And then we're going to fit the jaw. So you're going to learn a lot tonight on fits and how I accomplished that. The reason I'm in here though is I bought this wheel this week and I have no way to mount it. Most grinders, the standard hole on a grinding wheel is 1 1/4 inches, and this is 3/8, and I couldn't figure it out. So we're in this cabinet now, Dieter's, and let me show you, Ryan, if you can get in here a little bit. We got a lot of options we could have dealt with here. As you can see, there's a lot of smaller wheels in here, and different types of hubs and arbors, and different ways to hook these things up. This is a lot of extra work, okay, for one part. Like this one, we could find a nut for it, but we can't get a wrench over it. So there are attachments to do what I want to do, and you can see down here there's even more wheels and different hubs, and someday if we had more than one part to do, I would gladly set these up, but it's not worth a 2 or 3 hour setup to grind one part when I've already proven that I can do it by side wheeling it. So I just wanted you to be aware of the fact that there are options for doing what we want to do, and I think this is one of them, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, this is heavy. Brown and sharp. This fits right over your spindle. Then you got a belt that drives this little guy, and it gives you twice the RPM, because you need twice the RPM for little wheels like that. So there are things to do, but I know a lot of guys don't even have a grinder yet, and I know they want to get one, and a lot of times this is the last thing you'll do. You don't need this stuff unless you've got an order to grind a lot of slots. So before we moved into the grinding room, I just wanted to show you quickly why I side wheeled that vise jaw, and is very pleased with the way it came out, and I'll replicate that setup here tonight. So let's move on to the grinding room. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do tonight is we're going to finish fitting this jaw. But what I want to do to this jaw is relieve these corners here. I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that, because let me show you a quick sketch here. Here's our vise, looking at a cross section of it. Here's our hole here for our screw. Here's the base of the vise, and then I've got this slot going through it. Now when my jaw comes in, if I have a sharp corner here and here, because when you grind you can never get, you can get pretty close if you want to screw around with a 100 grit wheel. You can never really get a 100, or I'm sorry, a perfectly sharp corner with a grinding wheel. So what I basically want to do is tip this this thing up on a 45. I'm just going to run a cutoff wheel through there just to relieve the corners, and the purpose of that is when I stand this vise up to grind these sidewalls now, to fit it today. Let's take a look at that view. if I relieve these corners out a little bit, I don't have to worry about coming right up and hitting this surface. I took the time today to grind this whole thing. It's finished, except for that. All right, and I left 2/1000ths on that. So I want to come, as I'm grinding with the bottom of my wheel, and I come up to this sidewall, a little relief down here will give me a little room to not have to bring my wheel up so close to the stuff I've already finished. Okay, does that make sense? I don't want to run into the side of the wheel this work I've done. So let's go into the cutoff room. I've got a cutoff wheel set up that's usually used for cutting pins, but it'll work great just to run down here and through these corners and relieve them. Alright, so this grinder here is set up specifically just for cutoffs, and that's what a lot of shops will do. They'll take some of their older grinders that they don't really want to use anymore for precision grinding and set up a cutoff wheel on it. This is a nice wide spindle on a KO grinder, and what we've got is a magnetic chuck, and I'm using one of Dieter's magnetic parallels, a 45-degree angle, and I'm just going to take this cutoff wheel and eyeball it into this corner and relieve it. And again, when you're using the magnetic parallels, make sure you can't move it. You can just eyeball that right in. Further. Just a little bit more. Perfect. And I'll just flip it around to the other side. And I don't know if you can get that or not. That's pretty small stuff there. So you can see I've relieved that corner out.
I got it.
Okay? So let's just flip it around to the other side. Should be the same location, hopefully. Good, I'll just back off, it'll take it all in one cut. Good enough. Alright, so we can pause that. We've got this all relieved. Now we'll go back in and we're going to finish this. Alright, so as we finish up in the grinding room, like I said, today at work, I side wheeled this and it came out beautiful. So I'm going to side wheel this tonight just to show you how I did it. I've already dressed my wheel on the bottom, and I've already dressed my wheel and relieved it on the side. It really didn't need much relieving because it was still there from last week. I did want to show you one other thing tonight. When I was dressing the wheel tonight, I quit showing you guys all the time because I'm sure you get the concept. But I did want to make sure you understood one thing. This little diamond here, you'll notice, as I always taught you, is we always set it to the left of the wheel. But what I do, every time I dress the wheel, I turn this. And that way I'm hitting a different part of the diamond each time, and because you can put a dull spot on a diamond, and the wheel isn't dressed as well if the diamond isn't nice and sharp. So if you're having trouble grinding, and if you look at your diamond really closely and it looks dull, I've seen guys chip it with a hammer just to gently knock a fresh spot on it, but you can help yourself out by positioning your diamond always on the left, but turning it. And that keeps the diamond worn in evenly instead of wearing out on one spot. Alright, so here's what the method I use today. I'm up against my rail, magnet on. What I learned today at work is if I plunge grind it, it's pretty accurate. If I actually side wheel it by pushing into it,
I wouldn't have thought that would have been as accurate, but when you're going back and forth plunge grinding, I think it has something to do with the spindle orientation if it's a little tired. Second thing I learned today is you really got to take your time. The first time I did it, it was really close, but I could tell it had burn marks in it, it had a lot of shiny spots. When you side wheel, you want to see a little bit of the swirl, and it was too burnished looking. So I redressed the side of the wheel, and I'll show you the results. But let's now remember, a few weeks ago we already roughed this in. So I'm going to say it's probably within a thousandths of being finished anyways. So what I'm going to do is come down very carefully and do not hit the bottom of this vise that I've spent all this time grinding. So I'm going to get as close as I can to the bed of this vise, but I do not need to be a hero here. If I would not be happy if I nicked this thing.
I got a piece of masking tape if you want it.
Nope. I like to live dangerously. I can see the light. And what I just did to that jaw with the relief, this one's already had that done. So I don't have to get right to the bottom. Now we're going to slowly come in, and I'm going to pick up a part of it. I don't want to smash the whole wheel width into it. So I don't want to smash any part of the wheel into it, but just in case. And this is where it takes a little bit of time. What I learned today was about 1/10 at a time. Okay, so we're hitting over here. Pretty even. It did hit on the other side too. Okay, it's looking pretty good. I'm going to move over another 1/10. Another 1/10. Brian, do you remember what grit wheel this is? Is this a 60 or a 46?
I think it was a 46. That's the one that you brought in, right?
Yes.
I think it was a 46.
That is about it. So I'm going to spark it out. Basically, I'm going back and forth until I'm done here. I don't want to hear any more. I'm not feeding in, I'm just taking the play out of the wheel, the spring out of the wheel. Alright. Doesn't look bad. Alright, so what I'm going to do, Ryan, is have you pause this, and I'm going to go on the surface plate quickly and check this, okay? Alright, we're back on the surface plate here. First thing I want to do is show you the jaw that I did grind today at work. The fixed jaw. And I've got my 1/10 indicator here. And I'm going to come down and touch on that jaw. And this is side wheeling today at work, okay? And this is, again, a 1/10 indicator. Back and forth. That's really, really close. You gotta be it's so tricky to set these things at 0. There we go. Okay, so that was done by side wheeling today. I don't know if I can get any better than that. Now, just for the heck of it, let's see how we did tonight, doing the same process here. See if we're parallel. Nice and parallel that way. About a tenth out. Up and down. So it can be done. That's within a tenth. Not quite as good as the other side, but that's the process. You gotta have a nice fresh wet wheel dress, and just take your time, but it does a nice job. It's not my preferred method. Like I said, would rather use the bottom, but that's this backside is not that important anyways. This was the real deal here, the fixed jaw. Alright, so it's time now to fit the slot, and I might as well just keep it right here. I know that this slot, when I checked it at work, is 500 thousandths and 7/10, so I'm going to ring up this. And just so you know, when you buy gauge blocks, here's a 400 and this is a 1.1007. So this is 7/10 over 100, so this will give me my 5.5007, and that should just fit. It's what it did last week. Let's see if it does this week. No dust. Dust is going to be a problem for you. And that just slides through. And if I go to an 8th block, I think it gets kind of tight. Yep. So, now, let's talk about this a little bit here. Where's that vice jaw? And let's get my mics out. Learn a little bit about fits tonight. Alright, so 0.5007, 7/10 over half an inch. Let's see what we have here. I believe this is around 502, so I don't have a lot to work with here. Again, when you're getting this close, make sure it's nice and clean. And let's see what we have here. .502, maybe 5.019. Okay, so we've got less than a thou per side to take off. Now I do know I did some preliminary measuring today, so we know where this is. This is about 6 thousandths wider than my vise, so I do have stock on the sides to take off, and it's within a thousandths of being centered. So we've got stock to play with out here. My choice now is, do I just take off the whole thing off of one side or not? Let's see how it goes. We'll get set up on the grinder and go from there. Now, what I do want to tell you is, as I've said 1,000 times, this has got to be under that 0.5007, and probably more than a tenth, because if we've got moving parts, we're going to introduce a screw into this to push it. We've got a tang underneath what we're going to have here that's going to be grabbing it this way. So I'm going to say we'll probably end up at probably pretty close to 500 to get a really nice friction smooth fit, but let's see what we get. Alright, so we're back on the surface grinder. Got my Herman Schmidt vise set up. I've got a 1, 2, 3 block under here and medium pressure here. I'm holding my vise jaw in here, and this is the surface I need to take some stock off of. Ryan and I were discussing this while I was getting set up. You know, probably the prudent thing to do would just be to take it all off of one side. It's not like I'm going to whack 10 thousandths off of one side. I'm going to take off maybe 1.5 thou. Now let's watch it here. Once again, I am being so careful with this sidewall because it's done, and I do not want to hit it. I want to get close. That's why I relieved it when we started the video tonight, so I don't have to get so crazy close. Okay? So let's see how we do here. Probably And just a little, oh, boy, that's close. Again, using the light in the background as my friend here. What am I hitting here? Alright, I'm going to set a 0 on my saddle. Okay. I'm going to set a 0 on my wheel height. That was kind of goofy. You know what I just did there, right? I grabbed the wrong handle. Thankfully, I had a 0 set. All right, let's see here. Do I have enough room to get my mics in there? $5014. Let's just check it again since it's blind. $501 3/10. $501 4/10. So it's repeating within a tenth. All right, I'm going to come back to my 0. Start up my sidewall again. Okay, let's go 1/10. Two tenths. Three tenths. 4/10. $5012. Okay. Let's go back to our 0 on our saddle. Again, I'm always starting at my sidewall and bringing it in. Away from me, or away from that sidewall, so I have a fresh wheel. That should be at 501 right now. Now we're getting down to tenths. We're using micrometers and not a tenths indicator, even though these are my handy new stare at micrometers. We're at 501. Now here's where the tool maker in me comes in. There is no way I'm just dialing this down. Okay, we're good. It's 501. I've got to check it now. I want to see if it fits in my vise. So here's my vise, and now we begin the art of hand fitting here, or not hand fitting, but creeping up on it. In a perfect world, I should be able to drop this 3 or 4 more tenths and be done, but I don't trust it. I want to make sure I like what I'm getting, because we've put a lot of time into this, and the last thing we want now is this thing to be loose. So I'm going to gently slide it in, or not. Okay, it's tight. It wants to start a little bit. Now, another thing in a perfect world, movable parts shouldn't be the same hardness as the part that it's moving against. Similar hardnesses, again, you guys all know these were done many years ago. I did not check them for hardness. You want, I believe, about 5 points on the Rockwell scale. If this is 55, this is 60. I mean, if they're both 60, could set up a similar metal thing. This probably won't be a problem because we're not moving back and forth at any rapid rate repeatedly. Okay. Fortunately, let's see, that's the side I just did. I think I'm gonna grind the other side now. And again, everything's got to be very clean here. Just a little bit of pressure here. Notice I'm holding down on this while I'm tightening the jaw. My saddle 0 should be the same. However, I'm going to, because I know that this tang on this jaw isn't perfectly centered on the outside, I'm going to back off and come back down to it. Dial back over to my sidewall 0. Exactly our last 0. Now let's take a measurement. We might be there, or very, very close. .5008. .5006. Now, this is how you paint yourself into a corner. Not bad. Technically, this is within a tenth or so. Would you take it off and try it one more time before you took any more off, or would you go right to the number? What would you do?
If you take it off,
You're done.
yeah, moving it.
So I'm gonna check it one more time. Then the next time we'll definitely finish it. Can you see me fitting this here? That's it. Now should it move? Little tight. Little tight. Okay. And this is where dust can be your enemy. And again, though, you're going to be working in a grinding room. So if you make this thing so tight, we're going to dust a few more tenths off that and we're going to be done, I think. It's nice to see that finally in there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Finally. Alright, so let's just pick a side. I don't know which side I did last. Doesn't matter because we're going to grind the outside in anyways. Once again, I'm going to back off my wheel because I do not want to risk anything here. I'm going to go back to my 0 this way. So I got steady nerves to be a grinder hand for a living. How'd you like to do this every day?
I wouldn't.
Would you?
No, I wouldn't.
Again though, if you
Some
have,
days I have to.
if you have the equipment. I think we're done. Let's see what we have here. Now what I want you to notice is when I did put it in the first time, it fit pretty decent in the middle, but it was tight on the ends. Now we're back and forth. And that's what I want. It's no good if it's tight, if it fits here and doesn't operate, okay? So that's that. Very happy with that. Like no wiggle. I have no wiggle at all. Can't feel any anyways. I don't know if you can see that or not. So if I were to mic this thing, would we end up for a good fit? And fit's a matter of everybody's preference. 5 inches 004. 5 inches 4.5. So theoretically, maybe 003, about 2/10 on the side gave us a nice fit. We're not done yet though, because that's that part. Very happy with that. Now we're going to grind the bottom of this. How do I want to explain this? I think I've explained it several times, but let me make sure before we do this we're all on board here. Basically what I've got here now is this, and the thing people were giving me a hard time about was this. Now I ground this flat today, no big deal, you guys know how to do that. Nice and it's nice and flat. I want the bottom of my jaw now that I just put in that slot to stick up, probably to start with about 2 thousandths above this. But this is already acting like it's not hitting it. I should feel that hitting it. Unless it's so fine, it's lifting it up. All right, I know what the problem is. Back to fitting. I can feel this tang is sticking up, and it should be. I left about 3 thousandths on it. This should be hitting it. This should come in and pick up on it and hit it. You should feel it hitting it. You know why it's not?
It's hung up on the corners.
It's hung up on these corners. These corner radiuses, there's a little radius in there. And that's lifting this up and not letting it hit. So that's a pretty simple solution there. Ryan, if you want to grab me that 45-degree block, we'll just chamfer these edges.
There you go.
Okay. I want to make sure everybody understands this. And this is the tool maker in me talking. I know that this should be hanging out below this slot. This is flat. When I slide this in, I should feel it hit and lift up, because I know that's long. It's not. This obviously is not getting all the way down to the bottom, because I believe there's some corner radiuses in these channels. So we're just going to put a chamfer on this, and then we'll see what I mean. Hopefully, as we once again insist on doing this stuff live. Right?
Yeah.
I think we've got our money's worth out of this magnetic V-block in this series.
Yeah. Yeah, they're a lifesaver.
It's really nice. I'll be honest with you. I like the one I made. It was easy to make, but these are pretty cool.
Yeah, they take a lot longer to make.
A lot longer to make, but they hold smaller parts.
Yep.
And the only other option I have with mine at work is to put my small parts in a vise, then do it. Just turn it around. Right here. Again, it's a good habit to make sure, yeah, it's tight. Now, again, holding my vice jaw in place. Let's see if we do a little better here. See that? It's hitting it. Yep. So that's why this wasn't getting all the way down, because of some corner radiuses. Okay? So that solved that problem. Now, here's where you can get in some trouble here. You'd be shocked when you put these two screws in here. Well, don't lose that. Okay, I'll get it. And tighten it, the stress that could put on this block. And then you can't even move the vice jaw. So, I think the first thing I should do here is probably get an idea about how much this is sticking up. So, let's go over to the surface plate, and I'll check it there, and then we'll have a good idea about what we're looking at. I'm going to guarantee you it's probably going to need at least 1,000ths clearance for this to move. Maybe not, but again, I'm not kidding, guys. When you tighten screws into something, it's amazing the stresses that get involved. And we're only looking at 1,000ths now. And so, why don't you pause that and let me check it on the surface plate. Okay, so now our vise is upside down. Here's the bottom of my slot set at 0, and here's the bottom of my jaw poking through. It's got 2,000ths on it. And like I said, maybe we can see this a little better now that we're on this camera. When I was checking the slot before and I knew this wasn't, you should feel it hit. See that? So that means this is protruding a little too far, about 2 thousandths. And yeah, let's tighten that up and see what we get. Alright, so now using a set of Allen wrenches, and notice I don't have a pipe on these things. Just a T-handled set. Do we move now? Amazingly not. Now let's make sure we didn't get crooked here. When I tighten this up, it doesn't move. I think I see what the problem is though, maybe. It looks like I have a gap on this side and I don't have a gap on this side. I have a feeling that when I'm tightening this, that
it's knocking it out of center.
it's off center a little bit. And for those of you guys who are freaking out because I didn't put this on center, that's not the issue. The issue was these bolts aren't on center of this piece and it's kicking me off to the side. Welcome to Fitting 101, gentlemen. This is the way it goes sometimes. So, should be plenty of gap there, but it's pushing when I tighten, so we need to grind some off of here. The good news is I haven't even touched that surface yet. So let's mark this up so I know which side to grind, and I can grind good 5 thousandths off of there. So let's go ahead and do that. Notice I didn't panic and say, oh my god, I'm already too tight on my thickness. I should have left 3. That's not the problem. I can tell by looking down there, this thing's pushed over. And if I were to get a set of calipers right now, these look off. These definitely look off. You know, the other thing I didn't try though, I wonder what happened if I just turned it around. Huh. Let's just try it. Nope. Nope. Could be wrong here. I don't think I am. 'Cause it looks like it's hanging up on the same side, even though I turn it around. But I'll do this live. I don't think this slot's that far off the center. .6703. .6694. 4 thousandths off center. I don't think that's our issue here. It's just, as you can see, this thing's got plenty of clearance back and forth. That's not the issue. So let's just grind some stock off of here and let's adjust that way. Alright, so now I've got this little grinding vise. Let's get rid of some material here. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. I think this thing is, for whatever reason, hanging up on the sidewall. You take a little off the other side too, since it's never been ground. Who knows, it might just be warped. You know?
Yeah. Didn't even think of that. Is that heat treated too?
Yep. Okay, let me go back over the service plate. We'll check over there. Okay, we are back. Let's see here if my theory is correct. There we go. Tight, one's tight, it still moves.
Cool.
Two's tight and it still moves. Now, the trick is, how much play do I have here? I can rock it. I can rock it. So that's the hair. It does have a... I gotta be careful here. This has got sharp edges all over it. I can hear it rocking. Do you know? Do you have any feeler stock here, like 1,000 shim stock or anything like that?
I got a feeler gauge.
Yeah, let me see that. I still look like I'm tied up against this side.
I think the smallest it goes down to was a pound.
That's fine. Thank you. Didn't think to bring my feeler gauges today.
Well,
There
we
it
got
is.
everything.
So, nope, we're still tight on that one side. That's what I still think is screwing me up. That's why you gotta pay attention before you start removing stock. Patiently see where you're hitting. This side again. I do that because by the time I get over the grinder, I forget which side it was. Okay, back over here. I'm getting dangerously close to hitting your brother's vise here. Ugh.
You can throw, oh, yeah, you can throw a pin in there.
There we go. So I don't remember which side it was. Okay, back over here. It's interesting, those countersinks just keep shoving it over, but I think we got it now. Maybe. Not quite. What happens if I just tighten it with the shim stock right in it? At least I'll know I'll have a 1.5 clearance. There we go. Should move now. Okay? There's another trick for you. If something keeps caulking, tighten it with your shim already in there. Now how are we doing? So we have a nice fit here, but we're going to take that other thou off the bottom now, off the vice jaw. This is, now we're getting very close, just a little loose. I tend to like my vices just a little on the loose side. I think a lot of guys like them super tight. I don't like that, but that's probably more accurate. I'm not going to make it sloppy, so what I need to do is I'm going to take 1,000ths.
Maybe that's why I like the Herman Schmidt vice so much. You know, they don't have that
Right,
thing.
right. So we're going to take 1,000ths off this to tighten our fit. So let's move back to the grinder. Okay, so before we move back to the, let me zoom in on this a little bit, to the grinder, I'm going to set a 0, so I know I want to just take 1,000ths off of this thing. Okay, let's go back to the grinder and take a thou off and set. I hope you guys notice I use Dykem and markers a lot for just visual aids. Not a bad idea. Now, the danger is, man, it's not horrible. If I take too much off here, this thing will be way too tight. But I could always regrind the channel, too. Okay. Over the surface plate. How'd we do here? I took about 1 3/10 off. A little heavy pickup there. Yeah, I think we'll be just about right. Back this up a little bit. One thing to learn on these flatheads, they tend to shove your parts wherever they want to. Socket heads, cap screws won't do that. Flatheads, the countersinks hit, and if they're off at all, they shove the part. a regular counter bore won't do that because you're only basically hitting on the bottom. So now we're nice and tight, and we're moving freely. Beautiful. And how loose is that? I'm going to pull this up and look at it once. I guess what I could do here, can I rock this at all? Yes, I can rock it about 6/10. That's too much. A little too much, even though I can tell getting a little snug in a few spots here. But I do have some magic marker in there, and probably this whole thing could use cleaned. But the fact that I can rock it is telling me that still a hair too much. Now I can rock that thing 6/10, so I don't want to take too much more off here. Maybe 3/10.
That seems logical.
Because I think you're getting a lever effect. A couple tenths down here is adding up to 5 or 6 up here. Okay? I don't think it's 1 to 1. So let's grind a few more tenths off.
Important.
Okay. Here, bolts are tight, we're still moving. How much we got rock we have now. I can still rock at about 5/10. Interesting. Now is when you can start getting impatient and say, I'm grinding 3/1000ths off this thing. I've had it. But after weeks of work, you just got to take your time if you want it right, because when it's done, you got it for life. And like I said, if I do take too much off, I would simply have to grind the bottom of this this slot again.
Not the end of the world. Over here again. Our bolts are tight, we're still moving. How much we got rock we have now. I can still rock at about 5/10. Interesting. Now is when you can start getting impatient and say, I'm grinding 3/1000ths off this thing. I've had it. But after weeks of work, you just got to take your time if you want it right, because when it's done, you got it for life. And like I said, if I do take too much off, I would simply have to grind the bottom of this this slot again. Not the end of the world. Over here again.
Obviously I'm not taking off as much as I think I am here, because this is getting a little redundant here. Damn it. Alright, you can pause it.
I'm hoping and praying this is it. Oh. And that is as tight as I want to get it. And I don't think we're going to see too much rock here. Couple of tenths. I'm going to leave it at that because I want to make sure when I put that screw in there that the thing can still move.
Where are you getting the screw from?
I have it right here. I'll show you in a second. Yeah. Maybe 3/10 now. Yeah. What's going to happen here now is we're going to introduce this to the whole process. And what I also want to do is take some time and clean all the dicum off this, deburr all the sharp edges, and I'm not going to do that on camera. So the trick will be clean this thing up, deburr it, and then check my fits one more time while I'm still moving and clear here, because I got a lot of sharp edges, but that's how it's going to work. And interestingly enough, it's already gotten a little tighter since I added the screw to it, because you are adding a lever to it. So that's the trick, guys, is when you're doing moving parts, I think we're going to be just right here, because if I made this any tighter right now, that screw needs to push it. And you know, I guess if this screw is perfectly concentric with the world and everything else, but when you have moving parts, you can't make everything the same size or nothing will move. Okay, so that's it. We'll close up the video here and we'll tell you about what's going on next week.
Alright, took a little bit longer than I thought today, but I think this was a very successful video. Basically, our vise is done. I hope you learned a lot about the fitting process and how little corner radiuses and things like that can give you fits. And we didn't panic tonight, and we got this thing all finished except for one little thing. We've got to add, when I put this vise together and found this vise and decided we were going to grind it, it's missing a part here, and what we're going to do is we're going to have to turn on the lathe a groove into our shaft, and we're going to make a little piece up here that screws into these holes in the back of the jaw to help it come backwards. So that's next week's project, but we'll be on the lathe next week, it looks like, in the mill. And I've been on a lathe maybe one time in the last 20 years, so we'll try not to kill anybody, but this is, for all intents and purposes, done, except for cleaning it, stoning off any little burrs, adding this little keeper on the back, which we'll make, and then, like I said, I'm going to leave the fit alone until I see how everything lines up, because we're pretty tight now. In fact, right now I can't move this by hand. Since I've done it, since I've used the screw, it's already done something to the fit. Now it moves easily, not bad at all with the screw, but that's why I left it just a little loose, because you've got to have some clearance to have moving parts. So that's it. That was a project, and for those of you who are sick of grinding, I can assure you I'm sick of grinding too. So we'll see you next week at Dieter's Tool and Manufacturing.